Welcome to Know Your Right, a show that seeks to look at the Zimbabwean Constitution as well as the Bill of Rights. My name is Brighton Ncube. This is Asake Online. Over the past few weeks, we've been talking to MPs, politicians, and lawyers. But one voice has been missing in this conversation has been that of vendors in Bulawayo. So this week, we take a look and discuss the issue of vendors in Bulawayo. I'm joined by Ndiweni, the BVTA Executive Director. Michael, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Brighton. Good morning, viewers all over the world.
Michael, let's talk about the issue of constitutional amendment in Zimbabwe. There's been a lot of conversation about the constitutional amendment. As vendors, do you think vendors know more about the constitutional amendment?
Yeah, we have made an effort as an organization to educate our members. We have organized public meetings. We had a meeting at a small city hall here in Bulawayo, where we brought about 90 members from our structures dotted all over Bulawayo to get to know about the proposed changes in the constitution. So we will say that to a larger extent, our members are aware because we brought in chairpersons, the leadership in our organization to totally cascade the information down to our membership. Yeah.
But however, one more item has been on the table has been the issue of language. The constitutional amendments have been written in English. I haven't seen one in Shona or Ndebele. It's come to Bulawayo now. Do vendors understand the contents of the constitution which are written in English only?
Well, like I've said, that we have made an effort to educate our members, which then means that when we're doing the presentations, we're using the languages that they will understand, like Ndebele and other languages. But also, we have not only stopped at that. We have actually tried to talk to them even on WhatsApp, on their WhatsApp platforms, to try and simplify the content of the proposed changes. But however, we've also spoken to stakeholders like the government to try and make sure that they simplify, even translate some of these proposed changes so that people can understand in vernacular languages. But you have a point that we need to consider translating those provisions into local languages.
But in the coming month, we're going to have a public consultation meetings where the members of parliament will come to Bulawayo City Hall and deliberate under this amendment. But now we have 1 day, it's just 1 day, 2 hours, 10 to 12 in Bulawayo, where the entire province is to deliberate on these amendments. Do you think it's fair? Do you think we have enough time for everyone to meet and discuss these amendments for 2 hours?
Well, as far as I know, I'm not sure, maybe at site we have not received the information, but I think there's a circular that we read that says that the public hearings have been postponed indefinitely due to the outbreak of the coronavirus. So as far as we're concerned, no meetings will happen anytime soon until I think the government is in control of the corona pandemic in Zimbabwe. So as far as we know, that process has been put on hold for us to be mobilizing people to participate in the meetings. And as you are aware also, yesterday the president also made an announcement that they've limited the number of people gathering to 50, which then means that even the meetings, I don't think they will take place. So as far as we know, that process has been put on hold until the time then there is an announcement again, then we'll start mobilizing people to participate in the public hearings.
Yeah. So speaking of coronavirus, how are vendors dealing with the pandemic of coronavirus? Do they have safe clothing? How are they dealing with the issue of coronavirus?
So as BVTA, what we have done is that we have produced a statement shared with our members, discouraging them from, before the banishment of people leaving the country, to reduce traveling outside the country, particularly for countries that have confirmed cases. I think a few days ago it was South Africa that had confirmed cases, and we had said that they should reduce going to those countries and also try to minimize going to crowded places. We are aware that they do their business in those crowded places, and also we are aware that they go to those countries to either buy commodities for resale or buy raw materials for resale or sell stuff there, or to buy goods and come and resell in Zimbabwe. So we have actually tried to say, okay, as much as it is an economic issue, an economic need that has a bearing on their incomes, we need to try and be alive that there is a problem of this pandemic that we need to try and all put our heads together and deal with. So we have said, let's try what we can to reduce traveling, at the same time also reduce going to those crowded places, and also to take precautions around the WHO recommended procedures around washing hands and also avoiding touching your mouth, eyes, and among I think like sanitizing your hands now and again, and like I said, among other strategies that health experts have actually recommended that we should try to practice.
So speaking of working in crowded places, there's an article from Chronicle that's what I was saying. The police in Bulawayo, they've arrested 700 vendors and traders in Bulawayo.
Yeah.
It was a 4-day blitz whereby they're just washing away, it's called, flushing away vendors in the streets just to bring sanity in the city. As BVTA, how do you react to that action by is it RP arresting people in Bulawayo?
I think we want to state categorically that people who are littering the streets of Bulawayo, or Bulawayo as a city, is not only vendors. Even citizens, general citizens don't vend, they do litter the city. I think so, maybe you have actually spotted a community of bus where someone throwing a kelite or an empty a packet from whatever they'll be eating, throwing through the window, or banana peels, or any other litter that you can think of. So I think issues of cleanliness are a collective responsibility of citizens, not necessarily the vendors, because vendors they constitute a percentage, of course, but I think all of us collectively take responsibility that we keep our city clean. We are not saying that vendors are not polluting the city as much as we're saying that citizens are not also polluting the city, but I think it is every citizen's role to make sure that our city is clean. What we have done as BVTA, we have educated our members to try and keep their areas of work clean. And if you move around to the vendors who are trading in properly designated places, you see them sweeping before they start their business. So in our view is that vendors are aware that they need to keep their areas clean, but also on the other side, the supply side, there is no water, there are no toilets, and these people are actually doing business. They need to relieve themselves when they're doing business. And if there are no toilets for them to able to free themselves, how will they do that? People then go behind buildings to free themselves. So, like I said, it is the collective responsibility of everyone in Bulawayo to make sure that we contribute, we play our part in keeping our city clean. Even provision of waste respectively, like the litter bins, those things are not adequate. We cannot blame vendors for then putting litter in some corner because city council has not collected waste. So everyone has a role. Even if you look at the corporates, they discharge solid waste into water streams around the city of Bulawayo. But no one is talking about those. People are blaming vendors. So we know that we are very poor. We know that we are less human because of our social condition, that we survive on hand-to-mouth trade. But I think it is our responsibility as citizens of Bulawayo to make sure that we keep our city clean, regardless whether we are a vendor, we are a citizen who was formerly employed. Because we see people with nicely shaved heads, makeup, nicely dressed, throwing waste all over the city when they're walking, and no one talks about that. It's only vendors because they are poor, they are socially down there in the pecking order of our society.
But speaking of unavailability of water and toilets for vendors, let's look at the issue of 6th Avenue, for example. There are vendors there. If you go around 6 p.m., late 6 p.m., there are vendors there on the pavement. So how does that, as BVT, how do you react to that? Which stakeholders have you engaged in terms of provision of water as well as toilets?
I think the problem starts from the failure by the council, the company that was given a contract to refurbish Egodini Mall. And that's where the problem is emanating from. And in our view, we thought that by now, that project would have been completed. Unfortunately not. So therefore, you're seeing vendors crowding there because they don't have any other place where they can go to decongest. And we've been proposed to Bulawayo City Council to actually create another satellite market at corner Masocha Avenue and 5th Street, what is popularly known as Highlanders. There's space there, and we've said, Bulawayo City Council, take human and vehicular activity from 6th Avenue and even 3rd Avenue and push it to that area there, and create a bit of activity there. People will start commuting. People are going to the north and partly some parts of eastern part of Bulawayo to go there, and that will, in our view, will decongest that area. And there are toilets there, and I agree with you that 6th Avenue is very congested, but I think it is beyond our control as Bulawayo Vendors and Traders Association to deal with that problem. We can only talk about people keeping that place clean, but I think, like I've said, the company that was given a contract to refurbish Egodini so that people go back to properly designated places at Egodini has not done its part. So, and then we have that problem that we're seeing at 6th Avenue. But we have said, let's try to also create another market at Highlanders. Perhaps that will also decongest the city of Bulawayo.
So do you feel like vendors know their rights? Last week I was passing through Central Police Station. Many of them were arrested, and the items that we were saying, they were taken away from them. Is that by the PCC or by the ZRP? Do you think vendors know their rights? But stuff, it's not going anywhere. This is my stuff. Just arrest me, don't take away my stuff. Do you think vendors know their rights?
Bayawazi amalungelo abo, just to use the language as umuntu wonke. Bayazi amalungelo abo. inkinga ukuthi if you look at the law that governs the sector, for example, the Bulawayo Informal Sector Bylaw that is currently being used by the city of Bulawayo, it's very clear in terms of arresting powers. BCC has no arresting powers. They can confiscate the goods and hand over to the therapy. So in terms of law, there is no procedure as we speak right now that actually outlines the process of taking my goods and how I recover them. So it's right now people are doing as they please because there's no law that provides for the process. And what we have done as an organization, we have actually done a model by law that in that law we proposed a provision that speaks to issues of recovering goods. Should they get your goods taken, how do you recover them? And that law has been presented to Bulawayo City Council for consideration. And we know that they made a tick box analysis comparing our proposal and theirs to see if it made sense. And then they put the laws together, the draft together, and then they submitted the Minister of Local Government. So in our view, that's where the problem is. But our members know that their goods must not be taken. If they are taken, there is a mechanism that should they pay a fine, they should be able to recover their goods. But as we speak right now, the law is very clear in that regard. So it's very difficult for them to recover their goods when they are taken. And also we've been very clear to our members that you must sell in designated places. You mustn't sell anywhere in the city. And we are very clear, and you should have a trading license. And that also gives them, or gives us, a legitimate voice in terms of saying, City Council will pay our licenses, provide proper infrastructure. Right now, it's raining. Yeah. And traders can't sell because it's raining. They're selling in open spaces. So what we are saying is that we're going to try and play our part, and BCC also must play their part. At the same time, also, it's not only demanding from BCC. We've actually went further to introduce an inclusive city planning and designing project, where we're trying to say, we want to model designs, what we think could be responsive, could be ideal in the current trends, where we are having such a huge informal sector. So we've made drone designs using our architectures that we're working with, designs, market designs, model market prototypes that we think BCC can adopt or adapt or work together to construct those structures that we think could be responsive to the infrastructural gaps that I've been saying that people are selling in open right now. It's cold, it's raining, it will be sunny soon. So those are things that we're trying to do, and even educating them about their socio-economic rights, because ultimately people working in the streets are also like any other person who is formally employed, maybe like you. Section 24 of our constitution talks about Zimbabweans having a right to work in a place that they identify of their choice. So therefore, if I am selling something somewhere by the road, I am also self-employed. I am an informal worker, so I must be protected by the law, and I must actually have even social security. The government must introduce even my pension, a scheme that I can contribute my pension, medical aid. As we speak right now, traders don't have those facilities. Someone needs to somehow look for money if they get sick to go and pay cash. But for formal employees, they have what schemes that they get their money salaries deducted a certain percentage towards their medical aid and pension. And we're saying government must actually take informal workers very serious, because they contribute about 70%, according to the IMF, I think in January. 70% of our GDP comes from the informal economy in Zimbabwe. So that's a very significant population that needs to be recognized and be supported.
So speaking of vendors contributing a lot to the GDP, but if you look at the hierarchy now, in terms of taken serious by the government, the vendors are not taken serious by the government or even any other citizen. How do you then change the mindset of citizens now and from the government? These are the people as well that are contributing a lot to the GDP.
Yeah, so what we have done is that we have not faulted any city government taking us serious. What we have done is that we have approached government departments like the Minister of Local Government, Minister of SMEs, and NASA, among other stakeholders, and we have developed a national draft policy, a national informal economy agenda policy that we think the government must consider to adopt. So what we have done is that policy is now in place. We're supposed to launch it on the 25th. Supposed to launch it in Harare, where we're going to be having two ministers, with ministers, I think of SMEs and social welfare. They're supposed to be in that meeting, but because of the COVID outbreak, we have postponed indefinitely the launch. So we have done steps. We're working with it's Bulawayo Vendors and Association. It's VSET in Harare, there's Chia, it's Wabas based in Gweru, and Zagbita, Zimbabwe Cross-Border Traders Association. So we are 5, and our technical partner also that we are working with. So we are 5 of us that have drafted the National Informal Economy Policy Agenda that we think the government will adopt, because already they agreed to come and participate in the launch. So in our view, those are steps that we have taken to try and promote the recognition of the informal economy.
If you're just joining us, you're watching Know Your Right. This is Asake Online. My name is Brighton Ncube. I'm joined by the Executive Director of BVTA right here in Bulawayo. I'm talking about the plight of vendors as well as their rights. Join us after a short break.
Basic information on COVID-19. 1. How can one tell if they suspect it? The case definitions are based on the current information available and will be revised as soon as new information accumulates. 2. Suspect case. A patient with acute respiratory illness, fever, and at least one sign or symptom of respiratory disease. For example, cough, shortness of breath, and a history of travel to or residence in a country or area or territory reporting local transmission of COVID-19 disease during the 14 days prior to symptom onset. Or B, a patient with any acute respiratory illness and having been in contact with a confirmed or probable COVID-19 case in the last 14 days prior to onset of symptoms. Or C, a patient with severe acute respiratory infection, fever, at least one sign or symptom of respiratory disease. For example, cough, shortness of breath, and requiring hospitalization, and with no other etiology that fully explains the clinical presentation. Confirmed case, a person with laboratory confirmation of COVID-19 infection, irrespective of clinical signs and symptoms. The City of Bulawayo Health Service Department, HSD, requires your cooperation and assistance in ensuring that suspected cases are diagnosed early and necessary infection control measures and contact tracing are followed to prevent the spread of the disease.
Welcome back to Know Your Right. My name is Brighton Ncube. I'm still joined by Michael Ndiweni from BVTA. He's the Executive Director of BVTA. Mike, let's talk about the issue now. There have been claims from other people saying there are people come from other cities to occupy Bulawayo and take away space for vendors from Bulawayo. How far true is that some people come from other cities and occupy the space?
Yes, it is very true. The vending sector or the informal sector is very mobile. People come from other areas. And in Bulawayo here we have a serious challenge that some traders come at night or towards the evening, and they spend the night selling things around 6th Avenue. And then in the wee hours of the morning, they take the early bus and then go back where they're coming from, leaving the city very dirty. That is it. That is true. We've actually seen that because we also do some of these checks around early morning to see if this is true. And the problem is that now Bulawayo City Council blames vendors generally, even for those that are resident in Bulawayo, that they are littering the city. And we have proposed that they must actually identify places of offloading, particularly for those that bring goods like fruits and veggies from other parts of the country, to have an offloading bay where then they can account for trucks that came and what they offloaded, so that then people can come and order from that place than to park anywhere in the city and offload, and then people leave that place very dirty, and some will buy and come and just resell in some nearby shops and leave the city and then go back where they're coming from. So it's a serious problem that we have actually discussed with Bulawayo City Council, and for us as BVTA, we think that it could be an enforcement issue from Bulawayo City Council to ensure that those that are trading at night are actually trading properly, and also they also have licenses, because it doesn't mean that because you are mobile, you come from wherever you're coming from, you cannot have a license to trade. So there has to be a mechanism from Bulawayo City Council to develop that can actually then ensure that anyone who trades, even at night, has some kind of a trading space designated and also a trading license, and that it will bring some kind of order in the city.
But I'm sure as BVTA you also have database in terms of knowing the number of vendors that we have in Bulawayo. But if you look at the database vis-a-vis on what you see on the ground, is the number the same?
Yes, BVTA is not the only association in Bulawayo. There are a number of traders associations in Bulawayo. Perhaps we are the association of choice as we speak. But there are a number of associations, like I have said. So we have our database and our structures, like I have said earlier, started in the program that we have structures all over the wards in Bulawayo. There are some associations that have members here in the CPT only. So you find that depending on their strategies, some associations may not be educating their members. People just trade as they please. But as BVTA, it is our responsibility to ensure that members are aware that they need to avoid littering. If they have litter, it must be disposed in proper designated, disposal sites for litter. So that's what we're doing. But also we are collaborating with some of those associations to try and share information in terms of the best practices of actually keeping our city clean. So we meet and discuss. We have what we call the Bulawayo Informal Sector Working Group, where we come together as associations to share information to ensure that as players in the ecosystem of the informal sector, we try and bring a bit of sanity, even share ideas on what can be done to improve the city, even to improve access to trading spaces, even the licensing and other things that we've been talking about that are a challenge in the sector.
But now with the outbreak of coronavirus, I'm sure many sectors have been affected by coronavirus, economically and socially as well. But one sector that's been affected the most has been the informal sector, traders and vendors. Okay. There was one article, Kotama Boutique, it's going to be closed due to coronavirus. How do you react to those things? How will that affect vendors in terms of economic?
Yeah, like I said when I started earlier, that the corona outbreak has got serious implications on the incomes of traders. I spoke about informal cross-border traders, those who go outside the country to order goods. Even those that are trading, like you rightly put, that Kotama would be closed. It has a serious bearing on the income levels of our members because they rely on trade, daily trade to make ends meet, to buy food, to buy medication, to send kids to schools. At least now schools are closed, but they need to start budgeting for the next term. So it is a serious economic challenge or impact to our members. But I think it is the reality that we need to face now. Like I said, we need to try and do what we can to get this a period pass, and then from then we can get our lives back to normal. But we hope that the government will come up with measures to compensate citizens of Zimbabwe, whether formal or informally employed, because companies are going to lose revenue. Traders are going to lose revenue. In other countries, we've been reading that governments are putting in place mechanisms to compensate companies, to compensate workers. Everyone is going to get some kind of a grant to start their lives again, because lives have been brought to standstill. Like countries like Italy that have actually on complete lockdown. We may get to that stage also as a country, but the government has put in place mechanisms to make sure that people start their lives again. And we think that, and our thinking, we've been reflecting about saying that if the government has adopted schemes for traders to be making their own savings, like pension, medical aid, they could be just going to those coffers and saying, "Yeah, bought this much. Maybe let's share it for now, and then we'll compensate you later." But those things are not there. So I hope that government will come up with mechanisms to compensate citizens now. As soon as this pandemic is in control.
So if you look at Bulawayo, go to the market Bulawayo, you find a toilet by the corner there, and you find a market next to the toilet. The issue now of sanitation, issue of now right to health, right to water now, for the citizens of Zimbabwe as well as for the vendors as well. Umuntu can buy fruit there, by the next to the market there's water in the toilet. Mm-hmm. How do you deal with those issues when it comes to city planning? And
there's no water in the toilet just to add. It's a problem of city planning. I said in part of our discussion earlier that one of our initiatives is to try and promote inclusive city planning and designing. The result of putting a market behind the toilet is because someone has not thought about some of those health hazards that come with having a market near a toilet that has no water. So for us, it's a planning conundrum that we need to come together, the supply side, Bulawayo State Council, maybe the private sector, and traders to come and say, we have a problem here in terms of planning. How do we locate markets in places that are strategic, that actually do not have or do not pose health hazards for citizens? And we think that moving ahead, if we embrace the idea of inclusive city planning and designing, maybe then we'll reduce cases of having markets located near toilets, or where there are no toilets at all, like we are seeing in some areas. So we think that we need to think about this for posterity, put our heads together, plan together, and if we do so, then some of these challenges will be reduced. But in the immediate, we need to say, let's have toilets that are provided in those areas where there are no toilets. If there is a toilet, there should be water for washing fruits, vegetables, as soon as someone buys, because surely it's very dangerous to be selling vegetables, tomatoes there, fruits, and the toilet that is no water nearby. It's a recipe for disaster. Yeah.
So, Michael, what's in your heart in terms of vendors in relation to their human and to their rights? What's in your heart as a BVTA executive director?
What's in my heart is to promote an inclusive economy that takes a vendor and informal trader at the center of the local economic development, because they are key drivers of that economy. And in our case in Zimbabwe, the landscape has changed. The economy is being driven by vendors and traders, and they must be at the center of decision making, of planning in our local economic development, because they are keeping this economy going. And I don't think that we will completely eradicate the informal economy, because we did a study, just to add on, in 2017-2018. In our study, about 13% of our respondents were driven by entrepreneurship in the informal sector. That's a significant number of people, 13 people out of 100 who want to run businesses. So that those people must be supported, so that they actually employ other people and create jobs for other people tomorrow. So in my heart is that is to ensure that vendors, traders are at the center of local economic development and even national economic development in terms of planning, included, promoted, their interests, their rights promoted and protected. And like I said, they have to access social security like every citizen of this country.
Mm-hmm. Over the years, Michael, you've been vocal about issues when it comes to issues of youth. So you've seen now the constitutional amendments are saying 10 seats for the youth, 1 per province.
Yeah.
What's your take as an activist in terms of with regards to that issue?
I think the biggest question that I have is are the youths that are in parliament, have they failed those that are already occupying seats? I think you have examples of, I think I'm thinking of Joanna Mamombe as an example, who is a very young MP in parliament. Have they failed to represent the issues of young people? That you need to create a special basket for them. And how are we going to choose those young people to represent the 10 provinces? And Matabeleland, as an example, is so wide. How do you cater? How do you choose one young person to represent such a big province like Matabeleland to go and sit in parliament? It doesn't make really meaningful sense in my view. I think that we need to ensure that political parties that are contesting in an election have a quota, a provision for young people within the political system. If they are issuing out a list of candidates, there is to be a percentage of young people on that list, so that they are voted into parliament than to have a special kind of case to be put in. So I get what I'm trying to say. So I'm saying our political parties must have a quota, a provision under the electoral law that says a political party, a contest of election, 2% of our candidates are my youth, 2% will be my mama, 2% will be my people with disabilities. And then by a vote, then I care after the election. So the Electoral Act must provide for that. So that then everyone is very favor or counter to the next person, because Uzreli was a power parliament. Yeah, that's my view.
Right, so as we wrap up our conversation, where coronavirus is now affecting the world, and it's even here in Zimbabwe, where we saw 1 death being reported. And so what can you say to the viewers at home when it comes to the coronavirus? What precaution measures can they take to avoid coronavirus?
Very sad. May you so rest in peace. What we're saying, that people must wash their hands. That's what WHO has said. People must wash their hands, exercise social distancing, at whatever case possible, try by all means to stay out of crowds. If you feel anything, please try to contact the emergency health services for assistance. People must eat warm food. You know that there's a problem with electricity again, but where possible, try to eat warm foods. If you buy fruits, please wash them with warm water. And try by all means to take all the recommended procedures or precautions by health experts, and hope that we'll meet on the other side healthy and alive.
Thank you very much for joining us. You're watching Know Your Right. My name is Brighton Ncube, joined by Michael Ndiweni, the Executive Director for BVTA in Bulawayo. So please wash your hands, please social distance, please stay at home. Be safe out there.